All right, here it goes. Every SR I've ever owned, I've blown up in less than 50 miles.
Facts.
Definitely.
So, hey everyone, welcome back to the Torque Motorsport Show. We are bringing behind the scenes and under the hood of motorsport and video games. I'm Reggie. I do marketing and content here at Grease Monkey Games. We've also got Gav. Hey.
There's me. I'm also a new addition to the team. I also do pretty much a similar job to Reggie and a few other things. But the main guest that we have here today, Mr. Nerren himself, he can introduce himself.
What's up? I'm Jonathan Nerren. A lot of you may know me from Torque drifting games solely. No, I'm picking. I started out drifting a while back, 10, 12 years ago. You may know me from the drifting world and in the later years, Formula Drift. And you'll definitely see me in playing Torque Drift against all you guys. So.
Now, Jonathan, real quick, before we talk about Torque Drift, you recently signed with us for your vehicles and liveries to appear in our upcoming motorsport game, Torque Drift 2. How do you feel? Tell us about that. Like, that's so huge. That's major. That's exciting. We want to hear it from you first.
I'm excited. The more games you can put into, or excuse me, the more cars you can put into the games. I'm biased. I definitely want to drive my own cars, and we have quite a few that are coming. They're getting built right now. So I'm anxious to even get some more cars into the game, which you guys will find out. Well, you guys know, but as far as Torque Drift listeners and players, you guys will see some new cars that are coming in, and I'm just really excited to debut all that in Torque Drift 2, and as well as Torque Drift we have going on right now.
For sure. Now, we see you playing Torque Drift a lot, when we're streaming our weekly streams on Twitch as well. We see you hanging out with the community, just jumping into like custom lobbies and stuff. How did you actually get into Torque Drift? Have you always just been a gamer yourself, or?
It's kind of funny. No, really not at all. I played some games growing up on some different, PlayStation and Xbox and stuff like that, but I'm not, I guess, quote unquote, a gamer. I don't want to say it's more so convenience with Torque Drift, but I always have my phone with me from doing, marketing and taking pictures and working on the car. Always have my phone close by, so if I get, a 5-minute break, I can hop on Torque Drift and get a few runs in, log out, and I'm back working. So it's definitely a convenience things that got me really hooked at Torque Drift, more so than console games. And also, I just wasn't ever as good at console games for whatever reason. Me and controllers don't get along. I can use my phone. I can.
Relatable. I'm a horrible console gamer.
I'll probably be better on a sim rig, but I just haven't invested into a sim rig. They can get expensive, and
They can, dude. Yo, Fanatec, hit your boy Nerren up, yeah. Need that sponsorship, man.
Things for sure. I think we do okay on sims on like actual sim rig, but for now, until I make that investment, all my money goes into the cars. So I'll stick with Torque Drift and playing on my phone and ripping it up with my phone versus you guys.
Absolutely. And I think you're one of the few drivers that do still actively play Torque Drift. Like I said earlier, you're jumping into streams, you're, critiquing players' liveries, you're doing some like tandem battles and stuff with like the community and stuff. It's so awesome to see you like actively involved in like the drifting community, both in real life and virtually as well. And it's just like awesome to see because how often do you see pro drifters like just not only on the track, but on track on the phone as well. So.
Well, I thoroughly enjoy the game, so that's a bonus. But also with someone that's supporting me and taking time and their effort to put my car into a game, I want to support them as well. So any way I can do that, I try to help out. Not to mention, I look at it as if I was, just a Torque Drift driver or somebody that was just getting into drifting. And that was my opportunity to play versus them in a tandem battle. How sick would that? I think it would be amazing. So. I enjoy it, so.
Some of these players recreate your cars and liveries in the game as well. Like there was, I think we had a player that recreated your S14 in the game, and you were like, wait, I know that car from somewhere.
There's quite a few very talented livery artists on the game as well as drivers, and occasionally when we're on a Twitch stream, they'll show up in one of our lobbies. I think that's just the coolest thing ever, especially when I'm not, kind of not really looking for my car, and all of a sudden it randomly shows up drifting around the corner. I'm like, wait, hold on. So that gets me super excited. So shout out to all you guys that are do my different liveries over the years on either on the S14.5 or on the Mustang. It's just super cool to see. So thank you guys for putting time in that. That's badass.
That's
But
awesome.
back to the original questions about starting with Torque Drift. I really don't remember how I got into the game initially, but I know it was kind of in its inception. It hadn't been going on too long because they were still doing some beta testing. I believe it was. I don't know if I reached out to Torque Drift over the Instagram post, but I know I saw where Torque Drift was looking for pro drivers and teams to be a part of it, and as sponsorships as well. And this was probably I say at least 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. It was probably around the beginning of Torque Drift coming into, and so I was doing some working back and forth with whoever it was at the time, talking back and forth with how the game reacted and how it played and how steering was and throttle and power. I mean, just do everything. And I actually didn't like it at first. It was really hard to play and it was tough. And so with some of the feedback I gave, I don't know if I played any part of changing how the game's dynamics are today, but I like to think I did.
Don't sell yourself short. You definitely did, bro. That definitely don't sell yourself short. Like, definitely the best feedback that we get will most likely come from drivers because,
For sure.
like, our game is trying to recreate, I guess the best experience of both, an arcade style game as well as trying to fill in that real life stuff as well. And I think you definitely gave us some of the best feedback we've gotten. So we definitely appreciate you for that.
And that feedback is also really important because keep in mind, these are your cars in the game. So for it to feel, there has to be like a balance between like fun and also realistic as well. So having feedback from the driver themselves is just like, it's like
who drives the car
Yeah,
that we
actually,
have in the game.
exactly.
It would be
super
best,
valuable. Yeah.
Super valuable. Insane.
Even like some of your setup. I don't want to get too far off on a tangent, but set up in a game and you can really tell a difference. It's not just like, hey, let's add some tow, let's change tire pressure, or change whatever settings. You actually tell a huge difference in what you're adjusting, and it's for the most part real life. You make this setup change, and that actually is a transitions to actual feeling in the car, how I'll feel it. And I guess coming from a driver going to or towards a game room, not necessarily a game room to a driver, it translates a little different. So it's cool in my eyes. Whenever I'm testing in the game, I'm always sitting in my car like in real life. Like I'm okay. What should I expect to feel? And then I go out there and drive on the game. So and then all the controls, everything does what it should. Whether you're obviously a left foot braking, with my left thumb braking, and then gassing, and then e-braking, so all that actually the inputs do what they do in real life. So on that's pretty awesome.
Now, you weren't able to fight for the Klutch Kickers title, just Florida things, like bad Florida weather. But, like, tell us a little bit about just how the competition was overall last year. Like, yeah, how was that?
So that was the third year of Klutch Kickers, and I've competed every year. The second year I didn't compete the full series, not every event, because we were running Formula Drift, and it was tough to have all the days off and be prepared not only for your next FD event but for Klutch Kickers. So our primary focus in 2021, 2021 was FD. But this year, since the very beginning of Klutch Kickers, there's always been some pro drivers coming out, and there's been some very talented pro-am drivers and even some amateur guys that are coming out. And I think Klutch Kickers kind of caters to each individual, um, I guess, level of experience from A to Z, and the drivers out there with the track that they have and how it's laid out and supporting that. So the level of competition, is I would say all it's not all over the place by no means, but it's definitely gotten way better over the years. It's just this is the nature of drifting in general and people uh, competing. So I personally love Clutch Kickers. It's a great kind of medium in between pro am and Formula Drift because you have a lot of very competitive and well put together cars on the pro am level and also pro level as well. So whenever you can go out and kind of have a fun atmosphere and enjoy, kind of enjoy being at the tracks, more relaxed, you get a lot more practice time than you do at Formula Drift. and that's we'll talk about that later on kind of practice and preparation time for competition event and Formula Drift. But there's a lot more. I don't say downtime, but there's a lot more practice time and to drive with all the drivers in the series, which it was anywhere from say 50 to 70 drivers every event, which is great. But you get a lot more track time, and this atmosphere is really laid back and fun, and competitive, and you kind of brings in all aspects of drifting. People like fun drifting, and people like competitive drifting. I'm more so on the competitive side, but it kind of takes all that into account. So I really love running Klutch Kickers. This past season was awesome. We had a running at Cletus's track, the Freedom Factory, in Bradenton, Florida. So aside from the random rain and the weird Florida weather, it's beautiful. And we have really good Florida, so that's another thing.
I actually have a question for you. So, your first car, your favorite car if money was no object, and your forever car, the one that you just like won't sell regardless of the pay.
Good question. Man,
community needs to know.
My first car was a Pontiac Firebird.
I did not expect that. I mean, it's a good car, so like, yeah. But damn, a Pontiac? We don't even get them in this side of town. They never even came to Australia. We never got them.
Not anymore. This is going to be my second car, and then my forever car as well.
All right.
It was a Pontiac Trans Am. Yeah. So when I came out driving, I was 16-year-old guy that raised hell, and my parents didn't want me in something that I'd probably kill myself in, which I probably would have. Yeah. And something was too fast. So the first car was a V6, and it didn't hold me back from modifying it. I had a Trans Am body kit on it, wheels lowered and headers. I didn't put nitrous on it. Limited differential and different gears. For a V6, it was fast, but at the end of the day, it was still a V6. But it was what I could work with while I was under my parents' roof. I started working when I was 14 to pay my part into the car, but they still wouldn't let me have a V8, so I was restricted. I loved the car, and once I turned 18, I bought it was a WS6 Trans Am, like the LS engine, 6-speed, and that's what got me into LSs. Just a couple of years ago. I won't put out my age here, but a handful of years ago, and it was relatively new at that point. So you can do the math.
Was the price point different for LSs back when you were like, I guess 17, 18 going into that period, and then in today's time? Because I guess for LSs for us in Australia here, they've been going skyrocketing. I guess in America, is there still a huge demand for these engines? Is there still a lot of inventory for these engines? Like,
I guess two separate. It was back in the day. It was. I want to say it was cheaper to get swaps. I would say in the mid 2000s, 2010s, it was definitely cheaper to get a swap. Everything. I mean, pretty much everything across the board now is just skyrocketed.
Yeah.
I mean, a 256 transmission or LS, people just want astronomical numbers. I'm like, I could build an LS for not too much more than you want. I mean, at least forge the internals and the bottom end and throw some stock heads on it, some boost. Pretty cheaply put together a nice LS. But for example, maybe in the 2010s, when I was starting out drifting, I didn't have a lot of money. I was blowing engines left and right in my Trans Am. I'd pick up a short block, LS1 short blocks for $400 or $500. At the time, it was Craigslist. It's like the Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
So I'd pick up a short block for $400, throw my cam instead of CNC heads on it, get it tuned to make 450 horsepower and go out ripping. Living with rev limiter, and after about a year, I sling it right outside the block and on to the next one. It didn't matter. You can't find short blocks for that cheap anymore. Not 5.7s or 6.0s. You can find a 4.8 or 5.3, but 5.7 and 6.0s, you're spending a couple grand.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, it's crazy with the whole inflation of these days and stuff like that. But going back to it, I mean, what are your plans for the future? I mean, you're competing in FD this season with, your freshly new built S14, little facelift S14. Tell us about that.
So we're not going to run FD again this year.
Okay.
We're building a new car.
Oh.
All right. Well, I probably I'll tell you.
Let's go! Let's go!
So nobody else really knows. Actually, I mean, other than some sponsor stuff, nobody knows. The team. But I haven't put out anything on social media. So this will be it. We'll drop the new J&R car that we're still building, waiting on a lot of parts, and at some point going to be testing this year for that'll be the new pro car. Yeah, you heard it first here at Torque Drift. It's going to be a E46 BMW.
Oh, shit! Actually, before Reggie asks us this question, I got a question for myself. I too have an E46 330 Ci. I'm bringing it over from New Zealand, just because they're just going for astronomical numbers over here in Australia. It was actually my first car, 6-speed manual, and I never sold it. It's just been sitting at home with my parents looking after it, and they're like, "Yo, you gotta get this car out of the house. You've been out of the country for like 6 years."
That's a forever car.
It is, and I'm like, all right, bet I'll just ship it over here. And they're like, yeah, if you ship it over here, you're gonna have to pay all these taxes on it. And I'm like, oh damn, I don't want to do that. They're like, but if you bring it over as like a race car, yeah, you don't gotta pay nothing for it. And I was like, well, I already got a daily driver, so I want to build my E46. Aside from welding a diff, maybe an angle kit that you weld on, or even if you go a full kit, what would you recommend for like just getting into it?
Yeah, I mean the BMW chassis, 36 and 46, they don't really take a whole lot to be competitive or even fun. I mean, my first BMW I had, it was actually when I was in the Navy station in Japan. It was E36 M3, and I absolutely love that car. Yeah, it was. I mean,
dude,
yeah, it was a great drift car. I mean, it was probably the best handling. I don't know. I'd have to go back see the S550 Mustang's pretty good too, but
yeah,
uh, in factory form, guys.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I still say the BMW keeps it out as a whole. It's the BMW's had more steering angle. I think if the Mustang had more factory steering angle, it'd be real tough to see which one I like more in factory form.
And in saying that too, though, do we get to know what parts are going to be on your E46? Do we know the partners? Are you able to share that with us? The sponsors?
No, not yet.
That's fair enough.
Man, do we want to guess what engine's in it? I know we can.
LS?
I mean, you should. Yeah. I would say you should know.
I assumed. I just assumed. Like, there's so many E46 LS swap kits that you can just buy that are just bolt on these days. Like it's so accessible, which is fantastic. I mean, like that's what I love to see.
Yeah, we're still finalizing quite a few partnerships this year with, and we can talk about scheduling later. But
Sure.
with Klutch Kickers, I don't know if you guys seen that, but they're not running Klutch Kickers this year. They released that not too long ago. They're either building or buying a new venue for, I don't know, hopefully potentially next season. That was one of our plans this year, was to compete in the BMW and Klutch Kickers, or get it ironed out, run the S14 until the BMW is kind of everything's worked out, new build bugs or anything like that, and it's I feel comfortable in it and it's competitive. Still up in there a little bit this year as far as our complete schedule. We have some things ironed out, but with partners and some of our plans for next season, I don't want to say that's holding us up, but that was some of the things we want to finalize before signing our contracts. So power plant, it's going to be LS, bigger cubic inch that I'm running now, if anybody knows what I'm running. And we have that's not finalized yet, but it will be a Whipple supercharger for sure.
Ooh, little whining down the track.
Yeah, all the way.
Just sneezing the whole way through.
Yeah.
Jonathan, now you mentioned just then, a little bit before that, you were in the US Navy. Now, well, obviously before becoming a pro drifter, you were in the US Navy as a mechanic. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. How did that how did that happen? You went from US Navy to on the tracks. Like, tell me more about that.
Yeah, honestly, that really paved the way into my drifting career. I went to the Navy right after I got out of high school, and I was my first place I was stationed was Yokosuka, Japan, which is like an hour out of Tokyo. Put it together now?
Yeah. There we go.
That's the quick story, but I was on a destroyer out of Yokosuka, Japan. I was over there a little over 3 years. And as all of us know, that's where drifting kind of started as a series, or started as a sport. And I just got hooked up with the right people. I've always been into driving cars, and like for example, like when I was 16, the day I got my license, I did my first donut. So I mean, I had my license maybe 30 minutes, and it was like, oh, wow. Yeah. So, but my introduction into drifting came in Japan. It's just by luck, by chance. With that BMW M3, I bought a set of wheels, and they're super wide in the back, and they were scrubbing the quarters. So I went and found a body shop that could widen the rear quarters out, roll the fenders out, or whatever you had to do to for the wheels so the wheels would fit. Anyway, I show up, and as I'm pulling in, like all the Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift cars are in there, like the RX, the Bell RX-8, the
Bro. Cue the soundtrack as you're pulling up. You got the Tokyo
yeah, it was
theme
cool.
track as you're pulling up.
Yeah, theme track going on in my head at least. But yeah, the Billside RX-7, two of them, the RX-8, the 350, two of the 350Zs were in there, and I was just like, I don't know who this guy is, but he's about to be my best friend. He was.
You besties.
His name was Toshi, so shout out to Toshi. He's still my homie. We still talk.
So being in Japan for 3 years, what was that like? Like, did you pick up on the language? Did you have like a huge culture shock in terms of like, like have you been to Asia prior to, your deployment going there and whatnot?
No, that was my first time traveling outside the country and really traveling at all. I mean,
Yeah.
I went on some family vacations, but I'd never been on an airplane. I really definitely not outside the country.
Yeah.
And so Japan was, it was complete 180 from what I'm used to. But if I was to live anywhere else, and I haven't been to New Zealand or Australia or anywhere like that, but I love Japan. I would go back in a heartbeat. And their culture is amazing.
It is.
They're just super cool, welcoming, and it was very rich. And you just had you could see something new like everywhere you go that was like super interesting. It seemed like, or maybe it's because I lived there. I was only there 3 years. I was learning something new like on a daily basis. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I speak the language some like just enough to be able to get me around town and not say if I'm off an hour away, I could be able to get back to base or wherever I talk a little bit, use hand gestures, and I could get back home. So I didn't get stuck out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
What are the major differences in drift culture, like in Japan versus America? Like, what are like the biggest ones that you've noticed?
This was probably 15, 15, it was 15 years ago. They were running way different power levels. Power levels aside, because that's kind of progressed in the U.S. as well. Everybody went from 300 horsepower SRs to 1,000 plus horsepower V8, 2J, whatever's. Everybody was running SRK, or I guess all SR stuff over there. You see some JZ stuff and like that in the JZXs and whatever, a bunch of other cars over there. But it was JZ SR, and that was the main part. RBs, crap. Don't forget about RBs. All the JD guys are probably pissed at me right now. Sorry. But yeah, the powers weren't crazy over there. I mean, you see it every now and again. You see a 2JZ guy like show up with something big, but style, like style was crazy. I mean, you see guys fixing their cars in a parking lot, like paint and body, fiberglass work, and they always had some obnoxious, like crazy bumpers on there. Just the flair and the style. There wasn't I mean, you had your, what do you call it? Dang, it's been so long. What's the terminology? Your not shit box, but um,
It is what it is.
It is what it
It
is.
is what it is.
It is what it is.
I mean, you had some guys out there with beard cars, but the majority of guys, like, they had their kits on there. They had wheels, like, they had work wheels and the two-piece wheels, and like,
Damn.
a lot of they put way more money in their car than I would expect. And it wasn't like a pro series. It was just a fun drift event. So yeah, I'll say style style of everything really stood out to me. And you have guys out here in cars that like stock body, beat up, 10 sets of S14 wheels out there just going at it. And over there, they all had some kind of like dope wheel on their car, and they're all painted and with a kit on it.
You love to see
Ooh,
that.
yeah, absolutely.
I do.
Going back to the questions about me asking you about the cars, you have any stories that you have that you love, like to tell, that you always tell people, like, your best story that involves cars? What do you got for us?
So I would say stories that were memorable in my mind, and this is just kind of quick off the top of my head. One of the most memorable in drifting, me and my teammate at the time, Tyler Nelson, when we ran Pro Series in Formula Drift Canada. It was either 2016 or 2017. I can't remember. Anyway, it was at this track called Santa Stash, which I believe is tore down now or doesn't operate anymore. And we ended up going 1-2. It was my teammate, and we ended up finishing 1-2. I can't remember if I qualified first, but I know we ended up finishing 1-2. Tyler ended up beating me. Me and him always went with each other. He's a good driver. But that was probably one of my more memorable moments uh, as far as being on the podium or and drifting. That was always solid. When you finish on the podium with your teammate, it's a good weekend.
100%.
Formula Drift USA, my very first year, 2020. I guess quick backstory. I worked on even further back. Sorry, I was on a TV show called Octane Academy 2013, which it was the amateurs are getting taught by the pros, and it was Ford. It was put on by Ford. Vaughn Gittin Jr., Tanner Faust, Ken Block, and I got picked to be on Vaughn's camp, and we ended up going into the finals. And me and Vaughn became friends, and I worked on his team in FD Pro for a couple of years, which that helped me bridge the gap between driving Pro-Am and going to drive Pro, because it's astronomically different world going from a Pro-Am series a licensing series in Pro-Am to running Formula Drift Pro 1, because at the time they didn't have a Pro Spec or a Pro 2 going for my license. So I guess with that in mind, I worked on Vaughn's team. My very first competition, top 32, was with Vaughn in Formula Drift Pro 1. So it was just really cool for me to go from becoming friends with him. We still talk on a regular basis. He moved shops. It's like 10 minutes from my house now. Their new RTR.
Even better.
Yo.
It's so crazy. So going, from being on a TV show with him to working on his team, and him helping me out in my career, and always just being a solid guy to go to. And if I ever had questions or kind of direction I was going, he always had some kind of feedback to help me along. He didn't give me no answers, or definitely didn't give me any handouts, because he firmly believes in doing everything for yourself. But to kind of all full circle, coming my very first time ever running Formula Drift Live and Formula Drift Top 32 was against him. It was actually unnerving. It was calmed me down going against him, because I drove with him before, and I was like, hey, that's my friend. Granted,
You're not really thinking of it like, I'm in the zone, I'm in a competition, I'm gonna, you're just like, nah, it's just me and my boy. We're gonna have some
Yeah,
fun.
it's still nerve-wracking, but it was, I guess, less than it would have been going against somebody I'd never ran with before.
100%.
So, but also, I'd probably say the craziest story, drifting-wise, was back to Formula Drift Canada days. This was the first year I brought on a teammate in my team, which was Tyler, and the first year we ran in Pro Series in Canada. My crew are a bunch of good old boys. We get stuff done, make the cars work, and we're there to compete, and we're very professional on that side of things. So with that being said, Tyler was running, and in practice, he ended up losing the engine. So what happened? I can't remember if it started knocking, or we had an issue with his engine, and it was a two-day event. So we're like, we don't bring spare engines. We're not Papadakis. We don't have another $20,000-$30,000 engine just sitting in the trailer.
It's not like you guys were AAA funded or anything like that. Yeah.
But it's tough, and
It is.
I don't think it's super reliable anyway, but not the point. We ended up sourcing through some of the guys from FD Canada, had to help to source a junkyard LS. So during practice or after practice was over, we started pulling Tyler's LS out, taking the supercharger off, transmission, the whole nine. And Tyler left the track and went and picked up this, I think it was like a 5.3 LS that was like in the corner of a shop, dust, no oil pan on it. It was just like heads and a short block, and it was together. And he picked it up, and we were like, all right, well, it's an engine. So we got it back to the track, and we were ripping stuff off, like the fully built engine, the accessories, the supercharger, the clutch, and everything had to be swapped onto the new engine. Meanwhile, we had to get this engine out. Well, we didn't have an engine hoist either, and nobody else at the track did.
Oh my god. What?
There was a fence post kind of surrounding the track, and it just so happened to be there was one laying on the ground. And 2 or 3 guys on each side of this fence post, my crew, and some of the other FD Canada guys, lift this engine out of the car with a fence post and some chains. Yanking the engine out with a fence post, set it on the side. We swap everything over, get the engine back in overnight. He's out to practice the next morning with this engine that we have, nothing about. That we had to clean it off because it was in the pile of dust that everybody's sweeping to the side, and we're going to compete in the Pro Series with this.
There's a way. If there's a will, there's a way. This is the redemption arc.
Dedication for that 2-day event. Insanity.
It was, and it wasn't just we had to sell it on, pop this, not pop it in. We had to swap everything over, and it was probably the largest engine swap we've ever done overnight, and got it back running, and he was out to compete in top 16 or top 32, whatever it was. But more so than that was super meaningful for our team. It was camaraderie and we're getting everything back together, and we're going out there to compete. We did what we came to do. And that was an intimidation factor. These United States Carolina boys, they don't play. They show up here.
And, don't.
That was the second or third event of the season, maybe. But at that point, all the other Canada drivers were like, "All right, respect." So that was probably one of the coolest stories.
Just outside of drifting professionally, what's something people don't actually know about you? It's a very vague question, but.
When I got out of the Navy, I went right into college. I did 4 years, and I got my mechanical engineering degree through UNC Charlotte in North Carolina, and I currently still work in the engineering field.
It makes so much sense.
Obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, imagine he's I just was a vet. I just became a full-blown drift mechanic. No dramas. Just went into it. That'd be insane. But also too, I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, with that story about just not having an engine hoist,
yeah.
It just
At this point, it's just anything goes.
I met my crew chief. I was working at Husqvarna R&D facility, and he was a design engineer there, and that's how me and him got linked up. Also, a funny story. My very first drift event I ever took him to, the ride along I took him on, we blew the engine. It was a 4-cylinder KA turbo, and I don't even know why I was spending money on that. I was wasting money. Immediately after that, Nick Snyder's my crew chief. He was like, "We're yanking this KA 4-cylinder out, and we're putting a V8 in." I've already been building this for a long time for my Trans Am. So I took the engine I had actually just built it for my Trans Am, and I put it in a 240.
So question then. Obviously, I guess a lot of people in Australia and New Zealand don't actually know, but in America, you guys actually got KAs instead of SRs. Over here, we just got SRDE, so non-turbos, and then the DET versions. Red top or black top. We got both, but we never got the KAs. What was the KA? What was a KA?
It was a truck engine that came in a Nissan hardbody. It's a 2.4 liter non-turbo, iron block, iron head, heavy. But I would take that all day over an SR.
Really?
Yeah.
There's gotta be a reasoning behind it. You gotta justify yourself, man.
All right. Here's my personal justification, and weigh heavily on that when we're having this debate with SR versus KA.
All right.
A lot of people have different their point of views from it. Here it goes. Every SR I've ever owned, I've blown up in less than 50 miles.
Facts.
That's
I mean, my first SR I imported from Japan to New Zealand. It cost me $7,500, had under 100,000 miles, and I blew it in 3 weeks. It started knocking, and I didn't even send it hard. It was my daily driver. You know what I mean? Yeah, it just.
Yeah, I just never had a good look out of them. The 2.4 liter KA, it has a lot more torque than the SR did. But I don't even want to claim to be any kind of expert because I don't know a whole lot about the engines. I stopped caring about them a long time ago. I've always blown them up, and the amount of money you take to build, properly build a KA or SR. I mean, you can have a properly built LS.
100%. So. Now, did you ever were in the point where you were drifting 300 horsepower cars before you start going to the full blown You know, do you actually have like a personal preference? Like, if they said like, you know, hey, you could drift 1,000 horsepower FD, or you can drift 300 horsepower, would you prefer the FD to be like a 300 horsepower limit, or do you kind of
No,
like how it is right now?
it's different. You know,
Yeah.
you can have a lot more competitive battles with more horsepower on different tracks. Like, sure, like take 300 horsepower out to Irwindale. You know, the competition is way higher stakes because you're going way faster and um, you know, a lot more power. It's a lot funner to watch. A lot more fun to hear. Tires go wide
100%.
by way faster. A lot more smoke. Everything's just way cooler, more horsepower.
Yeah, at the end there, you're definitely a driver, but you guys still got to put on a show for us. You know what I mean? Like, that's, I mean, for us, because we're not pro drivers, we're there to see like a cool show put on, and you know, mad
Yeah.
respects for that. Yeah.
It's a lot easier to drive 1,000 horsepower car, but like you know, we're sure if it was not gripped up and you're just out there floating around. But with the amount of grip that's in these cars, like in FD cars and stuff like that, it's hard to drive. I mean, at any point you're going to straighten up and go into a wall. I mean, it's the
Yeah,
wrong move.
exactly. It's not like you're driving like a 300 horsepower car, stretching a 205 tire at like 80 psi, asking for forgiveness. You're like probably running like 305.
I like driving both. I'm actually building a 300 horsepower car right now. It's
Perfect.
I've got like 4 cars going on right now. We're changing stuff up on the street car. You might have seen a post earlier I made today. We're making some changes on that car. I'm building a seat time car. It's another Mustang S197, and I'll be releasing some more stuff on that soon. So that we're revamping the S14, and then the BMW.
I'm hyped for this BMW, dude. Like, I'm excited to see what you pull up in the next few months of this E46, man. Like,
You're
dude.
Gavin's like furiously
I'm
taking notes right now.
considerably taking notes. Yeah.
I started drifting, there wasn't as nearly as much like information now as there is now. It was tough. Really, my first drift event, I showed up with a car that was driving down the road like a streetcar alignment. And I didn't know any better.
Damn.
What helped me out, and what'll help a lot of other people out there get into drifting is hanging out with people that have been there, done that. Like if they're an amateur driver, go to an amateur event and look who's doing good, and go start talking to them, make some friends.
100%.
Sure, yeah. Now, it's the year 2023. Year in 23. We're gonna expect lots of good things from you. This is your year. What, I guess, upcoming events or I guess like competitions or anything in general should we expect to see you in this year? It's your year.
What? Oh, it's my. I know. Of all years, we were planning on bringing the BMW to FD this year, but we decided not to rush it. So that was our whole thing. We didn't want to get the car together and then show up to Long Beach round one and have some issues. And we probably could have rushed it, got it together. But this car, I'm taking my time building, and us and the team, we're not rushing it. We want to have it obviously perfect, but I don't want to just slap it together just to make an event. So I don't even know where I was going with that. Oh, we were going to run FD this year. So, but we decided not to. So we're going to, want to get that car completely dialed in. We're going to go run Klutch Kickers, and they pulled out. So we're still finalizing stuff on that. But you'll see me at some Grid Life events.
Nice. Yes.
Some exhibitions. So if you guys are going in, I believe you went to the past. Did anybody go to a Grid Life event in the past? Or maybe we just.
A couple years ago, yes.
A couple of years ago, we did Grid Life, yeah.
Yeah. We'll be at Long Beach
this year, though.
April.
Yeah, both Reggie and I, we'll see you in April.
Maybe. No, maybe. I don't know. Probably not.
Probably not.
I'll fly out just for you guys.
Yo. We'll have a booth and everything set up there, too, so
Yeah.
feel free to come say hi if you ever come down.
As far as other events, so do some Grid Life. We're probably gonna go to E-Town, which is in Englishtown. Sorry, Englishtown, New Jersey,
In New Jersey.
for the Gambler. They got like monthly events called the Gambler, where it's kind of a smaller payout events, and doing some Link ECU shootouts with Riverside Drift. I think like 50K shootouts. We're doing 2 of those this year, so we'll probably pump our head into some of those, 1 or 2 of them. And Holly LS Fest, probably Holly Ford Fest. I should have 2 or 3, definitely 2 Mustangs running this year. So we'll have, the street car's already running, but we're doing some revamping. It's my demo car, not demo car, seat time car. They get confusing. Street seat time cars like that 300 horsepower Mustang. It'll probably go to Ford Fest with another one of my drivers driving it, and I'm planning to have a Shelby Mustang at Ford Fest as well.
So what's the difference between your seat time car, your street? I know what a street car would obviously be. What's the difference between your seat time car and like your pro car? Do you not get? Is the seat time car the exact same car as your pro car? It's just the one that you're allowed to send into a wall, or
The competition Mustang, the Shelby Mustang, is S550.
okay,
That's the independent rear, Coyote, Whipple, 1,000
full
horsepower.
send.
The seat time car is just an NA 4.6 liter 3 valve Mustang, Ford Mustang engine. It's like the chassis was originally a '07, which that body style is '05 to '09. So it's an older Mustang, solid axle car, smaller engine, 4.6 opposed to 5 liter. And I would say it's way different, but I just got a good deal on it. Buddy of mine wrecked it, and I picked it up and already have a body kit for it, and we're actually converting it to a 13-14 body style, which like that chassis, the S197 chassis, goes from '05 to 14.
Correct.
They just had a body style change in 2010, and then in 2011 they put the Coyote engine in it. So we'll have but if I stuff it into a wall, I stuff it into a wall. But that was one of those cars, like, I wanted something I could go to an event and not go through a set of tires in 2 runs. So I can have a set of, I can go through 8 tires or something. I can go to local events and bash around with other amateur drivers and pro-am guys, and if they hit me, then it's not as a big deal. I'm not as upset as they're hitting. Not, I know stuff happens, but I'm a lot less concerned with this car getting hit or beat up as opposed to a higher level.
For sure, yeah.
Race seats, cage, 2 front aim kit, e-brake, and that's about it.
Got
And
everything already, yeah. So the seat time car is just, I guess, more for like you just get a feel around the track without obviously going through so many sets of tires, because obviously the bill just runs up. You know what I mean? And
the more you can drive, the better. I mean, even if it's in a different car, optimally you could drive the same car every day, the whole year, drifting every day. You get a little more used to it. But if you can be behind the seat, your timing and tandem chases and running tandem, you can always get your timing better or stay fresh behind the wheel. The more you can drive, the better. So it doesn't matter if it's in a Mustang this weekend and 240 next weekend. Granted, it'd be better to be in the same chassis, but driving's driving.
100%. Now back before you were speaking about you were doing you had a round with your friend Vaughn. Who is someone that you've actually competed with? Doesn't matter whether it was early in your career or later, or most recent in your career. Who is someone that you were like, damn, dude, this person is gonna be this is gonna be a tough battle?
I would say probably the most nervous I was, and I don't know how this always gets back to Vaughn, but it was in 2020, the finals at Irvindale at Formula Drift. I was running against Ryan Tuerck and the top 16. If I beat Tuerck, then Vaughn won the championship. That's what it came down to. So me and Tuerck have had some run-ins in the past, like going into each other's doors, like on numerous occasions. So like we got started off on the wrong foot, like at a grid light in Atlanta. It was a misunderstanding, and he didn't take it too well, and different things like that. So I think he's, I don't know. What's in the past in the past. Like I like Ryan Tuerck. He's a good driver. But yeah, I think there was already some drama behind it a little bit, and then we got into each other. He actually drove into me. He got lost in the smoke or what happened, or his miscalculation, whatever it is. We're drifting at the finals at Irvindale, and I think he was sitting well in the championship at that point too. So he was trying to wanting to move on, obviously, and nerves can get the best of anybody. Not saying that he was nervous, but it can get the best of anybody. So what led to the accident or him hitting me, I don't know. But aside from that, going into that particular run was probably the most nervous I ever was. Because again, it was Irwindale, the lights were on, it was nighttime.
Yeah, you had the previous run-in and stuff like that. Yeah.
Take this guy out, we'll win the championship and this, that, and other. So it was just like,
Yeah, for sure, dude.
I kind of like when I got up there on the line, I just had what calms me down is the burnout box. Like
really?
I go to the burnout box and I'm just like, we get everything. Let's whip this car around. So we're just skating on this figure eight, warming the rear tires up, warming the front tires up, and I pull up to the line and I'm just
like at least you know what works for you. So you just like before you go into anything, just do some donuts, figure eights, and then get yourself in the zone, and you're good to go. You know.
Actually, one thing that really helps me out is my homeboy Mike. I'm actually at his house right now.
Yeah.
Drip Dreams. I don't know if he's gonna come out or not, but hey Mike. Anyway, Mike Farino, he's on my team, and he's the other guy that really helps me out at the line. There he is.
Yo,
Hey!
what's up?
What's
up, Mike?
He helps me out, like another guy that calms me down. We're at the line, getting ready to take off right before the burnout, and he just does. I don't want to say he's like the what would be a good. I'm the hype man. Yeah, the hype man. That's it.
Everyone needs one of those.
It's a huge part of it. You know, he kind of handles all the stuff that I don't want to handle. Like starting the GoPros, has a water for me, make sure like I'm buckled in, all like the hood pins are on, nothing stupid's gonna happen. And then he's sitting there playing some music in my ear. We're jamming out to whatever rap song, and yeah, just it's hot in the pits and on grid. Excuse me.
Dude, Mike's
In the
hitting
pits,
all the senses.
we keep it real wherever we're at. So
Everyone needs a mic.
Everyone needs a mic in their life.
He plays a crucial role into that as well, calm me down before we go run. I mean, he just gets me in the zone and just focus on the run, and we just have a blast. So, shout out to Mike. He's actually also big paint body man and does a lot of all my fiberglass work and stuff like that. So he's
Mike's also a patient man too. Then working with fiberglass, like.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, I've never met anyone who does fiberglass bodywork who tells me they love their life or who's happy with doing exactly that job. Like,
I don't know if he loves it, but he's really good at it. So
that's why you love it. If you're good at it, how can't you not love it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Alrighty, I think we will wrap up there. Nerren and Mike, thank you both so much for. I mean, Mike, you only came on for like a couple more minutes. But yeah, Nerren, where can our listeners find you? Like, do you have any socials? Or obviously you do have socials, but like, tell us what your socials are. Where can we find you?
Jonathan Nerren on Instagram and Facebook, and my YouTube channel is Jonathan Nerren Racing. So we have every event we go to. I always post a event recap video on YouTube, and then you'll see the shorter edits on my Instagram. So if you follow both of them, you'll get maximum bang for your buck when if you like what I got, if I'm putting out. If you don't like what I'm putting out, hit me up.
Hit me up. But you only accept critical feedback.
As you should.
Well, not critical. It don't matter. I'm pretty active on Instagram, so that's if you ever want to talk to me, that's the place I give back to everyone the most. I try to be active on all platforms, but that's the one I'm most active on. So if you shoot me a message, how they have my page set up, I don't see everything if I'm not like a direct friend with you. So give me a few days or maybe a week, whatever it is. I always try to get back to everybody. So if I don't get back to you immediately, I will.
Awesome.
That's all.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for all the stories and the good memories you've told us. We've had a blast. We're keen to see you guys this year. I want to meet the team. Oh, plug the team too while you're at it. While you're already here, plug the team. You got Mike. I've heard Vaughn. Who else is on your team, man?
Mike, my car chief is Hot Sauce, and that's his nickname. He goes by Sauce for short, but it's Justin Tambasco. Actually, another driver. He's a driver too. My bad. Actually, a lot of guys on my team are drivers, kind of doing what I was doing. They when I was working on Vaughn's team, going through and learning and going through the ranks. I was able to implement a lot of what I learned on his pro team back into my pro-am team and really put that back into my own program. So some of the guys that help me out do that as well. They run their own programs. They drift in amateur pro or whatever, shootout events or fun events. So Mike and check him out on Instagram, Drift Dreams Motorsports. And then you have Justin Bauer. He's another driver, which also in a Mustang S550. He's killing it. He won the championship at MB Drift last year. And Yeah, I got a team of killers out here. Y'all don't even know.
Bro, we don't, dude.
Oh,
You know, I got a big team, and you know, there's actually a handful of other guys I don't want to leave out, but that depending on the event, I got some fill-in guys that come and help out. So shout out to everybody that's helping me out, and also you guys, Torque Drift, and the whole crew of GMG. You guys are awesome.
No, thank you, man. Love both
thank you
ways.
so much.